Everyone thought he was weak, but he turned out to be the strongest dragon warrior after saving the princess. Our story starts with Yona, who is the only heir to the royal throne of Kuka Kingdom after her father, King Il. She grew up playing with her elder cousin, Su-won, and bodyguard, Hak, and the three of them became best friends. Hak, who is one of the 5 great generals of Kuka, as well as the youngest general in its history, is also a closet simp for Yona, but fears getting child police called on him, so he decides to become her bodyguard instead. A week before her birthday, the king holds a celebratory ceremony to pray for his daughter's good health and prosperity. She asks her father to let her marry her crush Su-won, but her otherwise kind father always seems cautious of his nephew and doesn't like the fact that Yona is in love with him. He refuses to grant her wish of marrying him and says that as a king it is his right to choose her husband who will become the next king, and he can't give Su-won that position. This makes Yona really sad, and she sits alone outside to sulk. Just then, she sees someone come out of the shadows and try to catch her. She manages to run away, enters a room and locks the door behind her, but then 2 hands come from behind and stop her from screaming. She becomes extremely scared and is about to shit herself, but then Su-won speaks up and asks her what happened. She starts panicking and tells him that someone was chasing after her and it felt like they were after her life, but Su-won calms her down and tells her that it's all okay now that he is here. He then starts walking out and tells her that she should go to Hak or her father, but she starts crying and confesses her feelings to him. Su-won becomes embarrassed and blushes, but says that he has only seen her as a younger sister so far, and this is all too new for him. She thanks him for being honest and says that she's happy that at least now he considers her as a woman. A few days later, Yona's birthday finally arrives, and they hold a massive banquet to celebrate it. Su-won gives her a beautiful hairpin and calls her hair pretty, and they start having their moment, but then Hak butts in and informs Yona that the king is looking for her. Once she's gone, Hak tells Su-won about this strange feeling lately that someone has snuck into the castle. Su-won tells him about the incident with Yona the other day, which makes Hak run out to keep guard while Su-won keeps an eye on the things inside. Later that night, Yona decides to go talk to her father again about her marriage with Su-won, but as soon as she opens the door, she sees her father getting impaled to death by none other than Su-won himself. On the other side, Hak notices that the guards who should be patrolling outside are not on their posts, and there are some new faces among them as well. He catches some of the men talking about him and engages in a fight with them. Back in the king's chamber, Yona asks Su-won why he did this to her dear father, and he says that he too loved him, but then he found out that the king had murdered his father, and that's why he had to avenge his death. Yona doesn't believe it at first, but Su-won says that the kingdom doesn't need a weak king anymore and that he will rise to the throne himself. At that moment, his guards walk inside alongside advisor K-suk, who tells Su-won to kill the princess as she witnessed him slay the king, but Yona starts running away and sets one of the curtains of fire by knocking a candle down. She soon gets captured by the guards, and they prepare to cut her down in the name of the kingdom's future. She calls out to Su-won for help, but just then, Hak jumps in and starts slicing through the enemies as if he's Madara Uchiha. Su-won fights back using his tiny sword, but Hak overwhelms him and starts pushing him back. K-suk explains that Hak is the heart of the castle and the strongest among the 5 generals, who rose to lead the Wind tribe at a very young age after his adoptive grandfather and old leader, Mundok, stepped down from the position. He further adds that his lightning-fast strikes and monstrous strength earned him the nickname of the Thunder Beast of Kuka. As their fight continues, Hak keeps asking about the motive behind his best friend killing the king, but the guards take Yona hostage and make Hak drop the weapon. Su-won walks up to behead him, but then someone shoots a lazy arrow at one of the guards, and this gives Hak enough time to grab Yona and run away from there. Outside, the king's personal medic, Min-soo, calls out to him from a dark alley and reveals that he is the one who shot the arrow. They hide behind some bushes and plan to escape the castle, with Min-soo acting as a decoy for them to run away. Thanks to his Nobel sacrifice, Hak and Yona manage to escape into the forest, where Yona starts weeping silently and orders Hak to never die and leave her as well. He hugs her and tells her that he will protect her no matter what to honor the last order that the king gave him. On the other hand, K-suk reports to Su-won that they tried to find Hak and the princess, but since Hak grew up in the deadly forest near the capital of the Wind tribe, tracking him down even with the princess by his side would be difficult. Meanwhile, Hak and Yona continue walking through the forest when he notices she is still behaving unusually and out of sorts. She doesn't eat anything, she doesn't speak, and he has to drag her by her hand or else she doesn't walk. While walking, Hak recalls the memory of when the king first asked him to become Yona's personal bodyguard and how that was the first time when he started feeling weird around Yona. Hak never wanted to become a general or any high-titled warrior, as he thought it came with too much work and politics. His only concern is to protect Yona and to fulfill his promise to the late king of keeping her safe. On the other hand, Yona dreams of a time from their childhood when she used to play together with Hak and Suwon in the castle after her mother died. She tried to cheer her father up, but losing her mother was too much for her as well. That's when Hak and Suwon cheered her up and played around with her in the snow. They got sick together and recovered together from their illness as well. Yona had felt sad because the king didn't come to visit her, which caused her to stop eating. Later at night, she felt hungry and someone snuck in a bowl of chicken porridge for her, but when she took a bite, she said that it was disgusting. The king came out from behind the door and revealed that he made it himself and was trying to make it up to her for not coming to see her earlier. Hearing this made her really happy, and she finished the whole bowl even when it tasted terrible. After that, when they all healed up, the three promised to be by each other's side forever. With that, Yona opens her eyes and wakes up from the dream and starts crying at the fact that now everything she ever cared for is gone. They continue their journey, and one noon, when she goes out into a river to take a bath, Hak notices and picks up the hairpin that Suwon gave her by the campfire, surprised that she still kept it. Later that night, Hak tries to get Yoka to eat, but she realizes she can't find her hairpin and goes to look for it, only saying that she will be back soon. Soon enough, she ends up getting attacked by venomous snakes. Hak protects her, but they find out that they are inside their nest, so Hak picks her up and runs back, but one of the snakes manages to bite his foot. Once they are safe, Hak gives her the hairpin and tells her that he won't ever forgive Suwon for what he did and took away from them, but if clinging to an illusion of the past helps her to live, then he has no problem letting her keep the hairpin. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the soldiers report that they couldn't find Hak and the princess and ask if they should send more troops behind them, but Suwon tells them to leave them be as they are now powerless and says that they have more important things to take care of first. The next morning, Yona wakes up and looks at Hak's injured foot and insists they go to a village to buy some food and medicine, but Hak says that it is dangerous with all the guards around and the only safe place they can go right now is his home, the Wind Tribe's capital city of Fuga. He walks to the front gate and finds his juniors, Handi and Ti-woo, slacking off on their duty as the gatekeepers. He scolds both of them and wakes them up by kicking them down and asks if that's what the guards of Wind Tribe are supposed to be doing. They greet him back and say that they were just embodying the will of the wind by being cool, calm and relaxed, and tease him by asking if he was finally fired from his job as the general. They then look at Yona and ask who the redhead beside him was, and Hak says that she is a court lady in training from the castle who was expelled for being a good-for-nothing. Just then, Yona faints from exhaustion and Hak carries her inside and tells them to prepare food for her. On his way in, he talks to Handi, who tells him that the old leader, Mundok, was called to the castle alongside all the other generals for an important meeting and asks why Hak was here. Back in the castle, all the tribe leaders gather in the castle and greet Suwon. They discuss the matter of the old king's death and Hak and Yona being missing. The story that Suwon creates is that Hak killed King Il and then ran away after kidnapping the princess. In both their absence, the advisor presents Suwon as the next king, and everyone agrees besides Mundok, who tells him to discuss the matter with Hak himself. Later that noon, Mundok rides back to his tribe, while Suwon tells the leader of the fire tribe, Sujin, to prepare for a possible rebellion from the Wind Tribe. On the other hand, Yona wakes up in the Wind Tribe's mansion and is greeted by a young kid named Tion. He introduces himself as Hak's adoptive younger brother and brings food for her. He asks her how Hak was at the castle, and she says that he is always acting rude and like a monkey. Meanwhile, Handi and Ti-woo laugh at Hak's miserable ass getting roasted by a chibai redheaded court lady. Just then, Hak walks in and gets really close to Yona and tells her that she is a court lady from the castle and her name is Rina, and then goes to beat Handi and Ti-woo's arse for making fun of him. Yona finally starts feeling a little warm and back in her senses, so she walks out to help around at the mansion. One of the women gives her some clothes to wash and Hak joins her and tells her that they wash the clothes in the river up ahead. Yona goes there and they find out that the river has dried up for some reason. They send Handi to go and investigate the cause of it, and in the meantime, Mundok also comes back and hugs the princess and says that he's glad to find out that she's safe. Handi returns all beaten up and reveals that some fire tribe soldiers had dammed the water, and they beat him up when he tried to fight them. The tribesmen become mad, but Mundok tells them to calm down and Hak decides they will buy water from the merchants in the meantime. Mundok then talks to Hak and tells him about Suwon's appointment as the next king and says that this must be their way of warning them because he didn't give his approval. Meanwhile, the Fire Tribe's chief's younger son, Tijun, who was put in charge of blocking the river alongside his attendant and soldier, Kai, plans to send his soldiers to keep the merchants from reaching the Wind Tribe as well, while disguised as bandits, because he feels jealous of Hak for running away with the princess, as he wanted to marry her to become the king himself. Later that day, we find out that young Tijun suffers from a respiratory disease, and he needs his medicine, but the merchants haven't arrived still because they were attacked on their way. Just then, Handy walks in and says that he will go through the forest and get the medicine as he is their fastest rider and will save Tijun from turning into a vegetable. Later that night, Hak confronts Mundok and requests him to approve Su-won's appointment as the next king, saying that he will leave the tribe and take all the blame with the condition that Mundok will look after Yona and let her live all her life here in peace, hiding from Su-won and his soldiers. Mundok says that he won't accept such a request from his grandson, but he can't refuse the orders of the tribe leader, and Hak says that these are his final orders to him as the leader of the Wind Tribe. After that, he sneaks inside a weapon shop and buys some stuff for his journey and prepares to leave. On the other hand, everyone becomes happy at Tijun becoming healthy and praises Handy for making a round trip back through the forest in a few hours. Yona also walks out to see Tiwu take Handy to the resting area and finds out the injured merchants were attacked by the Fire Tribe. She feels really sad for them and angry at Su-won for letting this happen, and decides to leave them as well so she doesn't cause them more trouble. The next morning, she sees Hak saying goodbye to young Tijun and goes to say her thanks to him as well. Tijun lets her go and cries because he won't be able to keep his promise with Hak about protecting Yona, but she hugs him and tells him to take care of everyone here. In the meantime, Hak walks out of the gate and says his goodbyes to Tiwu. He appoints him as the next general of the Wind Tribe, but Tiwu becomes mad and says that he is too lazy for the job, but accepts it regardless. He also says that taking care of a princess with baggage must be tiring and reveals that he knew everything all along. Just then, Yona runs in and tells Hak that she doesn't remember allowing him to leave on his own. He says that he is no longer her servant or the general, so he is going on a free journey. She says that she has decided to go with him, and he replies that it will be much safer if she stays here. She then stands in front of him and tells him to take her with him, to which he asks if she has anything to pay for his services as a bodyguard on their travels, but she says that she has nothing to give his sorry ass, but she wants him to become hers. Hak, being the simp he is, takes the L and says that she wins and decides to follow her. Just then, Mundok also arrives and scolds Hak for being rude to the princess and sees them both off. He advises them to consult a priest who had been involved in the kingdom's politics since ancient times and has the ability to look into the future. He says that in the past, the king's brother, Yuhan, persecuted the priest, so he decided to go live alone in the mountains of the Wind Tribe's territory. Once they reach the mountains, Hak notices that they are being chased by some people and walks out in the open to confront the Fire Tribe's soldiers surrounding him with bows and arrows. Tijun walks up and tells him to hand the princess over, but Hak says that he is no longer a general, nor the leader of the Wind Tribe, and refuses to hand the princess over to him. With that, Tijun orders his men to shoot at him, but Hak breaks all the arrows with a powerful swing of his glaive, and then sends all the soldiers coming towards him back with another swing. He then runs away with Yona, but she slips and falls, and one of the soldiers decides to shoot at her with a poisoned arrow. Hak covers for her and gets hit, but jumps up like a beast and tells her to hide behind some bushes. After that, he walks out and fights the soldiers chasing after them and gets his back cornered against the edge of the cliff. Yona thinks that she should stay hidden, but when she finds out that the arrow was poisoned, she jumps out and tackles the archer beside Tijun and tells him to leave. Hak asks her why she came out. He fights through the rows of soldiers, but then the poison starts taking its toll on him. The Fire Tribe soldiers start ganging up on him and eventually manage to slash his chest and make him fall off the cliff. Hak manages to survive by holding on to a ledge with his fingers, but the soldiers walk up to push him down. Just then, Yona rushes in to save him, but Tijun grabs her by her hair. She quickly pulls his sword out and cuts her hair short. After that, she rushes to save Hak and tries to pull him up, but with pressure from the soldiers and just the fact that Hak is a big heavy man, they both end up falling down and into the valley beneath them. Seeing this, Tijun falls on his knees and becomes depressed. He later goes back to the castle and reports about Yona and Hak's death to Su-won and asks him for punishment. But Su-won knows that the biggest punishment for his masochistic ass would be to not punish him and lets him go with an invitation to join his coronation ceremony the next day. The next morning, Su-won thinks back on the good old days when he was still friends with Hak and Yona. Hak used to tell him to marry Yona and become the king while Hak stays as his right-hand man. and that way they would always be by each other's side, but now he has crushed all of those dreams under his feet to rise to the throne with force. With this resolve, he walks up the staircase and receives his crown and is named the 11th king of Kuka Kingdom. The Fire Tribe's chief walks up to him to swear his allegiance to him, but Su-1 isn't blind to the fact that in reality they are just after the throne. He then looks at the Earth Tribe's leader and thinks that they only respect the strongest, followed by the Water Tribe's leader who has chosen to wait and see how things play out. And at last, the Wind Tribe gives their approval of Su-1, which he thinks must be due to Hak's decision to leave the tribe. Finally, he announces that he will lead their kingdom to prosperity, and the days when they lived while getting bullied by their neighbors are over. On the other hand, down in the valley at the base of the cliff, a young boy named Yun finds Hak and Yona washed up by a river. He finds out that they are both alive and decides to take them to his house and treats them. After Yona wakes up, she asks him about Hak, and he tells her that he has a few broken bones and lost a lot of blood, but he managed to survive thanks to his treatment. Judging by Yona's relatively good condition, he guesses that Hak must have protected her on their way down and asks if he is her lover, but she denies it. Yona then asks him if he lives here alone, and just then a dirty loose-haired blondie walks in and cries to the boy that he was praying in the mountains when he slipped and fell. He then looks at Yona and introduces himself as Iksu, Yun's guardian. He then says that he wanted to greet the princess in proper clothes as he knows about her journey, which surprises her. He then reveals that he is the priest they were looking for and God told him about their arrival. He explains that it's his job to convey the gods' message to people, but Yun chimes in that it's not a job, and he earns nothing and lives in the mountains praying all day because he was kicked out of the palace for talking about the voices in his head. Yona asks for the real reason why he was kicked out, which makes Yun look at her with slight disgust because of her ignorance despite living in the castle for so long. He explains that long ago the priests held a lot of power in the kingdom, and at times they could even overrule the king if he angered the gods. During the reign of her grandfather, the kingdom was growing stronger and gaining influence by waging wars with its neighbors, largely due to the then prince, Yuhan's military achievements. Since he was most likely to become the next king, he decided to kick the priest out to secure his position. Yona thanks him for saving her life and asks her to teach her more sometime again. Later that night, Yona wakes up and finds out that Hak is missing from his bed. She runs out and tries to look for him, but thinks that he has left her without saying anything and starts crying while calling him stupid. Just then, Hak walks up to her from behind and says that she should be glad that he has made a miraculous recovery, but instead she is crying here like a baby while badmouthing him. She asks where he went, and he says that he went to find his glaive in the valley. He then sits down in front of her and asks why she was crying. She tells him that he was acting recklessly and she didn't know what she would do with herself if he died and left her as well. Looking at her concerned and crying face, Hak is overcome with his feelings and tries to go in for a kiss, but the princess headbutts him thinking that he was trying to check his temperature by comparing it to hers. He looks at her dumb face after hearing this explanation and starts wondering about his life choices. The following morning, Yona fills him in about their location and the priest, and then she goes out to see the priest in the mountains. She finds him sitting on a cliff and crying while praying and asks him what was up. He tells her that he was dreaming about her life and the consequences of her journey, and then tells her that she is going to change the kingdom for good, but her life will be full of hardships. She says that she is ready for that, and that she has had enough of being a weak, ignorant girl, and ignites the flame of feminism hiding deep inside her royal heart. Iksu then tells her about the legend of the kingdom's creation long ago, when the red dragon god named Haryuu wished to live among the humans, for which he gave up his immortality and came to this world as a man. Even though he loved mankind, they decided to kill him, so the other dragon gods consisting of the white, blue, green and golden dragons appeared in front of him, and said that they were there to take him back as they loved him so much. Haryuu told them to love humans still, and out of love for him, they decided to share their blood with loyal warriors and gave them unique powers so they can protect him. After that, Haryuu used the 4 dragon warriors and founded his own kingdom, which he ruled as King Haryuu of the Kuka Kingdom. Years later, after his natural death, the 4 dragon warriors became depressed and went their separate ways as they realized that their powers were not controllable by humans. And to this day, their blood lives on as they reincarnate into new generations and live in hiding. Iksu then tells her that she will need allies for her journey, and once she leaves from here, her life will be in danger once again. If she keeps on like this, Hak would die, so she must first go to gather allies in the form of the 4 dragon warriors, and that this is the god's will. Later that night, Yona tries to throw away the hairpin she received from Su-1, but decides to keep it due to her conflicting feelings. Just then, Hak arrives on the scene, and she pushes him down and tells him to rest up. Besides that, she tells them about her mission and requests him to teach her how to use a sword and a bow since she wants to grow stronger and be able to fight herself as well. While they play under the rising sun, Iksu walks up to them and requests them to take Yun with them as well. The next morning, Yona wakes up and meets Yun, who gives her a new dress that he fixed up for her from her old rags, helps with cutting her hair, and also fixes Hak's robe. After spending some time with him, she goes to Iksu and tells him that she can't take Yun with her unless he asks her himself because she doesn't want to tear up a family. Iksu says that he understands and walks out to talk to Yun about it. Yun becomes mad and runs away to cool his head and starts thinking back to the time when he first met the clumsy priest. 7 years ago, he was a poor orphan who lived in the crippling Toka village of Fire Tribe. He used to eat tree roots and dirt to fill his stomach, and one day decided to steal some food, even if he had to knock someone out. He picked up a rock and hit a clumsy blondie who was passing by, and then threatened him with a sickle to give him some gold. The young man started crying and said that he didn't have any left because he just gave it to some other kids. He then said that if he finds something good, he will bring it back for him, but Yun felt guilty for injuring him and brought him to his house to heal him. The next day, the man who was actually Iksu exchanged his shoes for a potato and gave it to Yun for helping him. He then talked to the young kid and found out that he wanted to read a lot of books and travel the world. Iksu taught him how to make sandals out of straw and then promised him that he would bring back lots of books for him later on. After he left, Yun started making his living by selling the sandals and didn't go hungry anymore. But he feels especially lonely and missed Iksu a lot. One day, he found Iksu traveling through his village once again, but this time he looked all beat up and in rags. He hugged Yun and told him sadly that he was going on a journey far away from the capital and wanted to stop by and give some books to him, but then he got attacked on his way and all his goods were stolen. He cried and apologized for not fulfilling his promise. Yun hugged him back and said that he doesn't want books anymore and just wanted to stay by his side. From that day on, they both lived in the mountains away from people. Thanks to one of the books that Iksu fished up from a garbage dump for him, he was able to study a little bit of medicine, and that's how he was able to help Yona and Hak now. Back to the present, Iksu walks up to Yun and they both talk to each other about his departure. Yun says that Iksu's word is absolute, so if he orders him to go, he will go. With this, it is decided that Yun will travel with Yona and Hak, but not before they both cry and tell each other just how much they will miss each other. The next morning, they all pack up their stuff and say their goodbyes to Iksu before leaving to find the 4 dragon warriors. Their first destination is a village hidden in thick mist in which a mysterious clan of white-haired people live. Right now, our heroes are on the other side of the map and must cross through the Fire Tribe's territory to get there. With that, they begin their journey where they travel through some rice and wheat fields and water wheels, which makes Yona really excited. Eventually, they make a stop in a nearby village to stock up on goods for their journey. After getting everything they need, they sit down to have some tea and Hak says that he has to buy a new bow because it broke when they fell from the cliff, but doesn't want to leave them behind. Yun says that he can go and they will meet up outside the village near the big tree. On the other hand, Yona starts panicking after hearing that Su-won was crowned the new king, and she runs out of the restaurant. Yun follows her and tells her to stop acting suspicious. Suddenly, they see a couple of Fire Tribe soldiers walking by and decide to hide behind a crate in an alley. Once the guards go away, Hak meets up with them, and they all decide to leave immediately. With that, they travel through the lands for several days and eventually reach near their destination. At the same time, as per Yona's request, Han trains her to use a bow by first practicing shooting down birds and rabbits. They practice for an hour, but Yona can't hit shit, so Hak tries to teach her up close, after which she commits to it fully and even trains late at night by shooting 200 arrows. One day, Hak tells her to show him how much she has improved, and they have a shooting test. Yun says that he will walk ahead and tells them to hurry up. Back in the woods, Hak begins by making her shoot a tree, and she manages to do it successfully. Next up, he tells her to shoot him and says that he will dodge it so she doesn't have to worry about hurting him. She tries to shoot him a few times, but Hak dodges them all easily and says that she lacks the intent to kill, and that's why her shots are so weak. He tells her to think of him as her enemy who is there to capture her. She says that she has no one like that in her mind, so he tries to provoke her by telling her to imagine as if he is Su-won. Just then, Yona shoots an arrow which barely misses Hak's head and even grazes a bit of his cheek. With this, she passes Hak's test. After some time, they notice that the mist has started getting thicker and realize that they must be getting closer to the hidden village. They call out to Yun but don't hear back from him, and Yona eventually finds his belongings on the ground and tells Hak about it. They start hearing voices telling them to leave or they will incur the wrath of the gods. Hak says that their god must be a loser to be hiding in mist and clears it with a strong swing of his massive rod. Once the mist clears, we find out that they are surrounded by a bunch of white-haired dudes. Hak asks them if they are from the hidden village and if they possess the blood of the dragon. Their leader tells them to leave, but then he notices the red-haired girl with him and asks her where she came from. She says that she came from the Wind Tribe and was told by a priest to seek out the dragons, and upon hearing this, the white-haired man says that they are the guardians of the White Dragon and takes them back to their village. It turns out Yun was captured by the members of the White Dragon village, and after bringing Hak and Yona there, they let Yun free as well. While they are touring the village, the White Dragon warrior hears about some people barging into the village and decides to go take care of them on his own with the power of the White Dragon in his right hand. He walks up to Yona and calls out to her, but when he sees her red hair and cute face, the blood of the Simp Dragon starts boiling in his veins, and he immediately accepts her as his master and says that she is the reincarnation of King Heryu. With that, he gets on the ground along with his people for her. But Yona says that she is no master of anyone, and that she is looking for all the dragon warriors so they can protect her on her journey. The White Dragon accepts her request and says that he will go with her. Later that day, Hak walks in to meet the White Dragon, who offers him a bag of gold and tells him to leave Yona as it is now his job to protect her. Hearing this, Hak becomes mad and walks out of the room and tells Yona that they don't need a white snake like him, while carrying the bag of gold with him. Yona returns the gold and says that Hak will stay with her, and she wants the White Dragon to become her friend and protect her and Hak both, which the White Dragon begrudgingly agrees. The next morning, after enjoying the farewell banquet last night, Yona and the others leave the village with the White Dragon, and she asks him about his name. He becomes happy and tells her to call him Kai-Ya, and then reveals that the 4 dragons share this special link between them where they can sense where the others are. Yona says that that's very convenient, and they start walking down the mountain to meet the next dragon warrior. They follow Kai-Ya down the road and worry about him leading them because he has never been outside of his village before now. Yun asks him to show them the direction where the closest dragon warrior is, and he says that the closest one is the blue dragon, and then points to a direction up ahead and says that is where he is feeling his energy from. Yun looks at the map and says that's not very helpful, but Kai-Ya tells them to simply follow him before he falls down a pit with some insects and starts screaming and crying like a sissy bitch to Hak's delight. Suddenly, they feel some footsteps and Hak and Kai-Ya prepare to fight. They tell Yona and Yun to go hide in the bushes and then start fighting a group of bandits. One of the bandits tries to touch Kai-Ya's arm, but he finds out that it's boiling hot. Kai-Ya tells him to be careful as this power has been waiting for a long time to be used, and then grows his dragon arm and then slashes through them like a brutal maniac. He then turns around to look at Hak and notices him walking through the enemies while swinging his glaive and taking them out as if they aren't even there. After their fight, Hak falls down on the ground and Yun finds out that his wounds opened up. This shocks Kai-Ya, who realizes that Hak fought as powerful as a dragon warrior, even when he was injured like Zoro from One Piece. He then picks him up on his shoulder and they continue their journey. On their way, Yun discusses the possible location of the blue dragon with Kai-Ya, and they narrow it down to 6 places. They continue traveling and camping outside, and Kai-Ya feels really disturbed by this new environment. He isn't used to sleeping under the stars on the ground, and he has a tough time resting. He feels like a loser for not having the survival skills and wisdom of Hak and Yun, and this makes him even more sad. Eventually, they check all the places and still can't find the blue dragon. In the end, he points towards some mountains, and this makes Yun remember about a tale that Iksu used to tell him regarding how some of the dragons lived with moving clans. He says that there is a place in those remote mountains where no one goes, and Kai-Ya confirms that that's where he feels the blue dragon's presence from as well. After that, they travel to the desolate mountains and find a clan of masked people living there. They ask them about the blue dragon, but they say that there is no one like that living there and tell them to leave. Yona and Yun point towards Hak and say that they have an injured member and would appreciate it if they can let them rest there for the night. The clansmen warn them about not walking around alone, as they can get lost in this maze-like place and then leave them be. Once they are in, Kai-Ya confirmed that this is indeed where the blue dragon lives. While walking around, they constantly feel like someone is watching over them. Eventually, Yona stumbles upon a secret passage and gets lost inside when she starts following a squirrel. Eventually, she runs into one of the clansmen who says that he will lead her back to her friends, but tries to take her underground instead. Suddenly, a blue-haired masked guy grabs her hand and takes her instead, and then drops her off by her friends. As soon as Kaya sees the blue-haired guy, he says that this is the blue dragon, and everyone starts chasing after him, but he manages to slip away. After getting away, the blue dragon warrior thinks back on his childhood when he was still being taken care of by the previous blue dragon. His mother decided to ice sky herself after giving birth to his dirty ass, and as per customs, he was thrown to the previous blue dragon, Al, to be taken care of. Al was always really stern with him, but over time, the old dragon's powers started to fade away and the young dragon's powers became stronger. During this time, Al told the young kid about the dragon eyes that they possess, which has the ability to paralyze others if they look into them, and it can even stop their hearts. But it's a double-edged sword because it leaves him paralyzed after use as well. Al trained him in swordsmanship and told him to never use his powers or else the enemies would kill him after. Besides that, he lived a miserable life with no friends as everyone in the clan thought that his power was a curse which turned people into stone. One day after Al's death, the young dragon heard about a massive army invading them, and he decided to go out alone and take care of them by using his power. But after that day, everyone started fearing him, and they made him stay inside the mountain with his blinding mask on. Back in the present, Yona thinks back on how she felt when the blue dragon helped her get back to her friends and says that he is a kind soul. After regrouping, Yona says that they must go and meet the blue dragon once again. Hak stays back to keep watch over their stuff. But before leaving, he tells Yona to stay safe or else he will start sticking super close to her even if she gets annoyed. After they leave, Hak notices how they are always under watch by the villagers. On the other hand, unlike the white dragon, the blue dragon doesn't know anything about dragons and powers and their purpose, but he can feel an immense amount of love and desire to protect the red-headed girl. Soon, Yona, Yun, and Kaya arrive at the secret passage, and Kaya tells them to go on ahead and he will keep guard outside. Yona and Yun enter the room where the blue dragon is sitting alongside his squirrel named Al. Yona rizzes the squirrel up and asks the blue dragon to join her, but he fights back the simp inside his blood and tells her to leave by pointing his sword at her. Yona and Yun leave the cave, but the blue dragon feels extremely sad about it and doesn't know what to do as he always wanted friends, but now he's afraid of coming out of his closet. Outside, Yona and Yun meet up with Kaya, who is in a confrontation with the villagers. They start fighting, but suddenly an earthquake rumbles and blocks the escape route behind them. Everyone starts panicking and thinks that they are going to die, but Kaya says that he will get them out of there and uses his dragon arm to start digging. Soon the blue dragon also joins them, and we get to see the beautiful face under his mask. Meanwhile, Hak is panicking on the other side of the blocked route like a mother duck who lost her baby chick. He starts digging through the rubble and tells the remaining villagers to put their ass to work as well and swears to God that he won't let Yona go alone ever again. On the other hand, Yona and the others also work hard at digging out. While working, Yona faints due to exhaustion, and the blue dragon catches her. He takes her back to his room and lets her rest with his fur coat. Seeing his kindness, she starts crying and says that she will help him and take him out of this shithole, and then walks out again to help with the digging. Soon, Hak and the others manage to dig through, and they all save Yona and the people stuck with her. Once all of this is settled, Yona asks the blue dragon to join her once again and asks his name, but he says that he doesn't have a name and that she can call him whatever she wants. After that, he accepts her offer, and they leave the mountain village with him. With the blue dragon by their side, they are left with 2 more dragons to track down, so Yun asks Kaya about the next dragon's location. Kaya tries to help them, but then he falls on the ground due to a slight fever he got after all the digging in the cave. Yun tends to him while the rest try to ask the blue dragon about the other dragon's location. Unfortunately, he's still a closet weeb who doesn't know how to talk openly with others, and he also doesn't know what this dragon stuff means. Kaya feels really sad for him and holds his hands and says that he will teach him everything, and he can call him brother from now on. In response, the blue dragon suddenly dunks his face into water, and it turns out he was just trying to catch a fish to give to Kaya so he can be healthy soon, and this makes everyone's heart melt. After setting up camp, they have some miso soup, and Yona asks the blue dragon if he needs her coat to warm up, and he tells her thanks and calls her by her first name. Hearing him speak so casually to the princess, Yun, Hak, and Kaya become shocked and try to level up their game as well. Yun asks for permission to call her Yona as well instead of princess, and later in the night Hak tries his hand at it as well. But Yona's servant zones him and says that she wants him to call her princess, even if everyone doesn't, because she met them as Yona while he knows her as the princess of the kingdom. Hak understands that this is her way of keeping the memory of her father and her true identity alive and bends the knee and says that he will follow her everywhere as her bodyguard. After that, they walk through the forest and wonder what name they should give the blue dragon. At that moment, they run into him as he looks up at the moon, and Yona decides to call him Sinha, which means moonlight, and this becomes his new name. Later that night, we see him happily telling his pet squirrel, Ow, that his name is Sinha. The next morning, Yona wakes up to Kaya saying that the green dragon is nearby. According to Kaya's intuition, the green dragon seems to be somewhere near the port city of Away and its surrounding forests. Hak says that it will be a dangerous journey as they will be walking really close to the Fire Tribe's capital and the Huryu castle as well, and so they decide to use Sinha's Byakugan eyes and Kaya's intuition to stay out of harm's way. On their way, they also enter a dead-looking village of the Fire Tribe, and Yun notices how it looks similar to the one he was born in. He tells them that the Fire Tribe has the most land, but a large portion of it is infertile, and the able-bodied men join the army, and villages like these simply die off. They help a poor man on the brink of death, and he thanks them before cursing King Il and calling him a coward who gave in to the demands of the Shin and Sai kingdoms and failed to protect peasants like himself. He prays that the new king is better than the last one, and then thanks Yona for helping him. This incident opens Yona's eyes, and she resolves to learn more about the kingdom to find out for herself if her father really needed to die or not. Meanwhile, we get to see what Suwon has been up to lately. He is traveling to the capital of the Earth Tribe to meet their leader, General Jun-Ti, who is a battle maniac who made his name during the Kingdom Wars in King Il's father's era. He was once defeated by Hak when he was still a 13-year-old kid and respects his strength a lot. On the other hand, he knows nothing about this rabbit-faced king, Suwon, and questions his capability to lead better than the peace-loving King Il. He is also concerned for his own tribe, which relies on the ores from its mines, but have lately only been producing a beautiful but otherwise useless mineral. Suwon sits down with Jun-Ti and his assistant, Chul Rang, and they enjoy some fragrant tea made by his wife, Yun-Ho. Jun-Ti thinks that he is just another loser with his head in the clouds and leaves quickly. Later, Suwon talks to Chul Rang and finds out how everyone idolizes Jun-Ti, but since there has been no wars lately, he feels grumpy and frustrated for not being able to fight strong people. Hearing this, Suwon comes up with a plan to hold a fake war festival where the Earth Tribe's army will fight against his Sky Tribe in a mock battle royale. They hold the festival in Kaishin, and people from around the region come to watch the battle. For the rules, all the warriors wear plates on their heads, and teams will earn points by breaking these plates. Each army is distributed into different ranks like troops, generals, and a king, and they each hold different amounts of points. During this war, Jun-Ti evaluates Suwon's fighting capabilities as well and finds out that he is actually pretty decent, and more than anything, he is a cunning smart ass who manages to turn his own soldiers against him mid-war by creating chaos and spreading false information. This festival proves to be a great showcase of Suwon's true capabilities as the new ruler, and he wins everyone's heart and manages to revive their spirit as well by letting Jun-Ti win in a flashy one-on-one battle against him. Once the festival is over, Suwon leaves the capital, and Jun-Ti finds out that as per the king's advice, his wife, Yun-Ho, started selling her fragrant tea to the Kai Empire, and it's already a hit with them. Besides that, the stupid stone mineral jewelry that the king made him wear during the festival attracted many eyes, and now the once useless mineral from the mines is worth a fortune. He realizes how Suwon managed to revive their economy while raising everyone's spirits as well, and acknowledges that he may just be the king they have been waiting for who can bring Kuka Kingdom back to its glory. On the other hand, Yona and her group make it to Awaport, and the dragons confirm that the green dragon is in this city. But it feels like he is moving really fast, and it's hard to pinpoint his location. Since everyone else is tired, Hak tells them to stay behind and keep watch over their stuff, and goes to take a look around. While walking though, he notices that the city looks troubled, and then he runs into a bunch of corrupt soldiers trying to bully a woman. Being the gentleman he is, he jumps in with a flying kick and knocks one of them down, but then notices that there is another green-haired simp with him as well. After that, they both beat down the soldiers and run away with the girl and take her to safety. Later on, Hak tries to ask the man who he was, but he suddenly vanishes from the spot as soon as Hak turns around. Back to Hak, he returns to the group and says that he couldn't buy anything. He doesn't tell them about beating up some officials and decides to let them go shopping the next day while he walks off on his own. In the city, he meets up with the green-haired dude once again and takes him to a nice place to have some drinks. The green-haired dude introduces himself as Yiha and tells him that the lord of this city, Kumjai, has a lot of power, so everyone fears him. But he is also involved in some shady businesses like slave trading. We also find out that Yiha is a simp lord like Sanji, but he gets way more girls than he can dream of. Just then Yona and the others arrive, and they catch Hak drinking with a lot of girls and think that he is just partying shamelessly. Hak says that it's not how it looks, but then Yiha also runs away, and he just looks like a liar to Yona. Later on, they have their date in a restaurant, and the owner turns out to be the same lady that they both saved the other day. She tells them all about Kumjai's tyranny and explains how he makes them pay unfair taxes, and if someone isn't able to pay up, he sends men to mess their place up and sometimes throws them in jail forever. She also tells them about the common people's only hope, which is a group of pirate vigilantes called Gigan who fight against him. The next morning, they all go to the town together and look for the green dragon. On their way, they see some corrupt officials breaking stuff inside a shop, and Hak says that they must be Kumjai's men. Seeing this, Yona becomes really mad, but they stop her from causing a scene. While walking by, Hak notices a wanted poster of him and Yiha and runs away from the group and tells them to keep walking forward. Later, he meets up with Yiha, who is also laughing at his stupid wanted poster. He reveals that he is a Gigan member and invites Hak to join his pirate crew to take down Kumjai because they are in need of capable and strong men. Hak says that he isn't interested and continues walking forward, but then meets up with Yona and the others and Yiha jumps up to hide himself. He then accidentally falls back and ends up getting his butt stuck inside a pot right in front of Kaya. Kaya immediately recognizes him as the Green Dragon and takes him to Yona, but he breaks the pot and says that he has decided to break the chains of destiny and live his life as he wishes rather than be a puppet who serves King Hiryu. He jumps across several buildings and meets up with Hak and tries to get him to join again, but then Yona arrives at the scene. As soon as he sees her, the simping blood in his veins starts boiling, and he falls on his knees. He tries to fight back and says that these feelings towards Yona are from the dragons and not his own, and then stands up and tells her that he won't join her or accept her as his master. Yona looks at him and says that it's okay, and if he doesn't want to come, she won't force him. After that, he says that he wants Hak to join them to take Kumjai down, and Yona says that she wants to help as well because she saw a child die due to the corruption caused by Kumjai, and she wants to put an end to his tyranny. The next morning, they go to Gigan's pirate ship and introduce themselves. Hak, Sinha, and Kaya prove their strength by beating up her whole crew on their own, while Yun shows his usefulness by talking about his medical knowledge and cooking skills. On the other hand, Yona doesn't have anything that she can talk about, so Gigan tells her to leave, but she insists that she has her own reasons to stay and won't leave without taking Kumjai down. Gigan sees the fire in her eyes and decides that she will give her a deadly task, and if she can do it, she will accept her in her crew. She tells her to go alone and pick some senjuso, which is a medicinal herb that grows only on the mist-shrouded cape and is considered a cure-all miracle that can heal any injury. Yiha shows her the path to the herb, which grows inside a small cave on the narrow side of a very steep cliff that leads straight into sharks' mouths. He tells her that she doesn't have to risk her life for this, and that she can simply return, but Yona says that she will do it no matter what. He starts admiring her resolve and determination, but feels conflicted about having the dragon's blood in him. Eventually, Yona reaches the cave and gets the senjuso, and then walks out to go back. But on her way, a huge wave crashes into her and pushes her off the cliff. Yona hangs on by the root of a tree and barely manages to survive and tells Yiha not to help her because then she would lose the challenge. Just then, another wave crashes into her and it looks like this will be the end of her, but Yiha jumps in like Sanji and protects her. He says that she got the herb and protected it on her own, so she has already passed the challenge, but Yona doesn't feel fine with it. After that, they return to Gigan and the others who are waiting for them on top of the cliff, and Yona says that she got the herbs but had help from Yiha, so it doesn't count. Gigan feels amazed at her honesty and asks if she is giving up, and she says that she isn't and that this time she will go alone. Hearing this, Gigan starts laughing, says that while she is a weak duck, she likes her for being brave enough to never leave her friends behind. With that, Yona joins her crew as well and things look good. Yiha talks to Hak and asks him if he is her lover, but he says that he is just her bodyguard. Yiha says that they seem too close to be just that, but it looks like there is some distance and asks if he doesn't want her like that. Hearing this, Hak becomes annoyed and walks away and later keeps thinking about his feelings. He loves Yona, but he suppressed those feelings all his life for the sake of their trio, which would only last if he stayed Suwon's right-hand man and let him marry Yona, but now things are different and spending more time with her is making him crazy. He walks up to Yona and helps her fix her injured hands by rubbing some honey on them and ends up licking some off of her hand without thinking. Later that night, Gigan talks to Yona about Yiha and says that once they finish this mission, she will disband the crew and Yiha won't have anywhere to go. She asks her to take him with her, but Yona says that he has refused her once already. Just then, Yiha also speaks up from behind them and says that he doesn't mind going on a journey with a beautiful girl, but he will consider it once she grows up a little more. On the other hand, Sinha looks into the distance and reveals that a bunch of ships loaded with strong men are approaching them. The next morning, Gigan and the others discuss the matter and find out that the ships belong to Kamjai, and they are probably loaded with slaves which he is going to trade with the Kai Empire ships. They plan to crush the operation, but before that they must get more information on where Kamjai and the slaves would be, as he can easily use them as hostages. Yiha and Yona go to the city and find out that Kamjai is using a shop to lure in beautiful girls, where he captures them through a trapdoor and sells them off as slaves. With this information, they come up with a plan to dress Yona and Yun as beautiful girls and send them in as spies. Yun feels scared but agrees to it, as he knows that his friends won't abandon him, and he wants to help them as well. With that, he and Yona walk into the shop and get themselves captured alongside Little Al. Once they are down, they are blindfolded and put in a cell with the other slaves. Yona finds out that her foot got injured when she fell down earlier and worries that it will cause problems during their mission. Soon, Kamjai walks in and grabs Yona by her hair and says that he once saw such red hair in the Hariwu castle and asks if she is Princess Yona. Yun starts worrying about their true identities getting revealed and blurts out that he can please him more than the Chibai girl, but Kamjai punches him in the guts and beats him to the ground before telling him to keep his mouth shut and to never disturb him while he is playing with his merch. After that, he looks into Yona's eyes and feels intimidated by the fierce look on her face. He thinks that such a look can never be that of a princess sheltered inside a castle all her life and dismisses his suspicions. She then bows down and says that they are just poor girls from away, and if calling her Princess Yona pleases him, he can call her that, which convinces Kamjai he was wrong. After that, one of the newly captured girls starts banging on the door, asking them to let her go, but then another one of them speaks up and says that she has been there for over 2 weeks, and no matter how much they scream or beg, no one is going to let them out. Yona walks up to her and says that she wants to change away, but the girl thinks that she is just a small girl with her head in the clouds and calls her an idiot. Later that night, the ships start moving and Gigan's pirates commence their attack. They fight Kamjai's men but wait for Yona's signal to attack him directly, as they still don't know where he and the other slaves are. Meanwhile, Yona and Yun escape by making Ao eat up their ropes and then put the guards to sleep thanks to Yun's medicinal needles. They free the other slaves too, and the girl from earlier named Yu-Rai sees hope in Yona and says that she will help them too. They manage to go further up and knock more guards down, but due to the ship moving sideways, the guards get back up and take Yu-Rai hostage. They tell them to get back to their cells, but then Yun decides to distract them by revealing that he is actually a man and is there as a spy. He then says that he has rigged the whole ship with bombs and only he knows where they are, so they take him hostage and tell one of the guards to take Yona and Yu-Rai back to the cell. Once they are gone, the girls beat down the guard and Yona finds a bow inside one of the barrels. Outside, the guards walk around with Yun to find the bombs, but then call his bluff and decide to turn him into Sir Necklace, but then Yona shoots an arrow at them and saves Yun. She then rushes in and takes the fire signal out of his belt and lights it up using one of the lamps. The guards capture her and Yun again and decide to kill both of them, but Yona's signal reaches everyone else and Yiha jumps in and saves them. Soon, the other ships start putting ladders across and more enemies pour, and it turns into an all-out war. Yiha and Sinha protect Yona, Yun and the other slaves, while Hak and Kaya battle alongside Gigan and her pirates to defeat Kamjai's men. Their battle goes on for hours until dawn, but eventually they manage to capture every single one of them. A fat pirate, who was listening on Kamjai and his men talking about a spy in their ship, runs up and tells Yiha about Kamjai's secret room location, and they run down to capture all of the men with him down there, but Kamjai himself seems to be missing. Sinha notices him fleeing on a small boat thanks to his draconic eyes and tells Yiha about it. Yiha jumps up and tries to take him down, but Kamjai uses the boat rower as a meat shield and then shoots Yiha down with an arrow mid-air, causing him to hit the water. Just then he feels an intense bloodlust coming towards his direction and looks up to see Yona standing on a ship with her bow drawn out with an arrow aimed for his heart. He notices the deadly resolve behind her eyes and confirms that she is the real Princess Yona before he gets shot down by her to his death. Seeing this, Hak and the dragons become really surprised, as this is a monumental feat for Yona, as it proves she has the resolve to kill a human being if need be. With that, they all celebrate their victory and Gigan throws a massive party for everyone to enjoy. After playing around for a bit, Yona decides to take a walk to clear her mind and suddenly runs into a familiar face as she turns the corner. This person turns out to be none other than her previous love and childhood friend, Soo-won, and she instantly paralyzes in her place, overcome with flashbacks of their childhood together. Soo-won says that he is glad to see that she is fine and says that it must means Hak is alive as well. He then says that he's here because he heard rumors of the Lord of Awa conducting some illegal business, but then General Judo and his guards run in and tell him to stop going away on his own like that. Soo-won quickly hides Yona under his cape and makes it look like he was just having some fun with a girl and tells them to go away and to make their rounds. While being hugged by the killer of her father, Yona tries to take his sword out and kill him right there, but Soo-won stops her and says that he has no problem with offering his life to her, but he can't die just yet. After that, he says his farewell to her and walks away. Yona starts crying and falls to the ground and muffles her scream in frustration. Hak hears her and immediately comes to her aid and then takes her back to the party while Yona doesn't tell him anything. After that, Yona starts acting weirdly as if her head is fuzzy and she acts clumsier than usual. At one point, she even starts changing clothes in front of everyone, but Hak puts his robe on top of her and protects her from turning into a perverted exhibitionist. Later that day, he sits down with her and tells her that she can rely on him more because he is her bodyguard, and she says that she has decided to leave the city and asks him to come with her. That night, Yi-ha sits down with her and enjoys the party. After that, he spends some time playing with his fellow crewmates before going to talk to Gigan and paying her his respects. He thinks back on the time when she took him under her wing and feels really grateful for her throughout all these years. The next morning, Yona and the others leave Awa to continue their journey, and once they are on the road, Yona says much how she misses Yi-ha. But then Kaya and Sin-ha wonder what she is talking about, and Sin-ha cuts down a tree beside them and reveals that Yi-ha has come with them after all. He says that he doesn't know if it's the dragon's blood or not anymore, but he has decided to come with her as he wants to protect her and help her reach her goals. With 3 dragons by her side, her next goal is to find the last dragon warrior, which is supposed to be the golden dragon. On their way, Yi-ha hunts down a fawn for them, and while Yona and Yun pray to the gods for their bounty, a raggedy blonde boy with a growling stomach walks up to them and starts praying as well. After cooking the thing up, they invite the poor guy to eat with them, but the dragons seem disturbed because it looks like the boy is the golden dragon. Hearing this, the boy asks if anyone called him and looks up and says that it's great to see the other 3 dragons. Everyone becomes surprised at this revelation and asks him where he came from, and he replies that he is Zeno and he wanders the lands alone. He got bored and hungry and ran into them, so he decided to join them for the meal. Kaya points him towards Yona and asks him if he feels his blood boiling or an urge to call her his master. Zeno shrugs and says he feels nothing more but simple attraction because she's a cute girl after all. Hearing this, the other 3 dragons get puzzles over how he doesn't have to suffer having simplored blood inside them. Yona then asks him if it would be a bother for him to join them and help her on her journey, but Zeno accepts her invitation before she can finish her sentence because he has nothing better to do. He says that he gets to have great meals and people to talk to for free, so he has no reason to reject the offer and shakes all their hands. The dragons ask him about his power, and he says that he is exceptionally durable, so Hak tests it out by punching him, and it hurts Zeno really badly. They all wonder if he's a defective product, but Yona says that she can sense that he shines golden like a bright sun, and he is the golden dragon without any doubt. With all the dragons on her side, they decide to go back to Iksu to get their quest rewards, but when they look inside his hut, they see that the whole place is a mess, and he is lying on the ground with blood coming out of his head. They quickly rush to his aid and ask him what happened, to which he says that he simply slipped and fell. After proper greeting, Yun asks him about the legendary sword and shield that is meant to protect the king, asks if they will serve Yona, or if they will recognize Su-won the real king right now. Iksu says that there is still some time before the sword and shield appear and tells them to wait. While they think about it, Zeno speaks up and tells them that they are avoiding the main question, which is what does want to do now that she has the power of the 4 dragons by her side. Does she want to take the throne back from Su-won or not? Later that day, she thinks about what Zeno said and spends some time talking with Iksu by the waterfall as well to clear her mind. Eventually, she decides to fight back in her own way to protect the kingdom and tells the dragons to follow her. She asks Yi-ha to teach her swordsmanship as well because Hak. One day, she gets caught by him as she practices her swings. It starts raining, and they both hide in a cave, and Hak tells her how he feels proud of the little princess who has grown so much, and Yona starts crying as she feels appreciated and sleeps on his shoulder. A few days later, they depart on another journey to save more villages and cities from corrupt lords like Awa, and eventually stand on top of a cliff looking over an official army marching through and tell them to stop before picking a fight with them in the name of justice.